Stadium here in Riyadh. Well, a splendid sight indeed to see this stadium in the Saudi Arabian capital, and what a shame it hasn't filled up completely for the second of our double headers here this afternoon on EUROSPORT. Hello and welcome once again as we bring you here the second game in Group B. A fascinating encounter in prospect between Japan, the Asian Cup holders, and Argentina. Well, we've seen goals in the first game so far, and I'm sure that we will be seeing goals again in the next matchup, which kicks off in just a couple of moments. Japan, this will be their second match in the group. They have already played against the African nations champions Nigeria, and it was a sad debut for them in this competition. The second Intercontinental Cup, losing by 3-0 a couple of days ago. Well, Nigeria clearly starting the hot favourites to win this encounter, and the match going true to form. 3 goals on the day were good enough to sweep a brittle Japanese side, a side they were always going to be outgunned and outclassed by the stronger, fitter and far quicker Nigerians who were parading many of their World Cup stars. So Nigeria were calling all the shots early on, and from that right wing corner they were really gifted the opening goal. It came from Shasha from close range with an assist thanks to poor Japanese defending. He could hardly miss. There's the in-swinging corner once again, touched on at the near post, but the Japanese defenders all at sea as they play the ball straight back into the path of Shasha, and the number 12 really couldn't miss. Nigeria boasting the largest Muslim population outside of the Middle East, and not surprising that they had plenty of support in the home stadium, and a good travelling contingent as well had made the journey over from West Africa. Well, their long trip rewarded with further goals as it became one-way traffic the longer the game went on. Naive defending at times from the Japanese, and it was just a question of how many the Nigerians had the appetite to score. Adipoju was denied on that occasion with a shot blazed high over the crossbar. The Japanese reduced to a few breakaways, and that was about as close as they were to come. Still in the first half, remember Shasha's early goal, the difference between the two sides. Here's the goal scorer once again. This time the goalkeeper doing well to get up quickly and deflect the follow-up shot before a defender hacks the ball away to safety. Strength telling once again as the Nigerians are in behind the last man. But that's good goalkeeping from Matsunaga. It would be interesting to see just how many changes the Japanese have made for this afternoon's fixture against an Argentine side who will be hoping to go one better than the Nigerians did in this game. 2 more goals wrapped it up for the Nigerians in the second period as the Japanese began to tire. Once again, it's a telling cross from the flank, and against the crossbar from the unmistakable figure of Yekini. This time the crossbar did not come to the Japanese aid as the second goal goes in. This time from Adipoggiu. Might have scored in the first half, and this time his header deflected off the crossbar following the free kick to put the Nigerians in the driving seat, now 2-0 ahead. Lack of inches in the penalty area, always a handicap for the Asian sides. The Japanese, no exception there. The first following a corner kick, the second a free kick, and Japan concede their second from the head of Adipoggiu. Nigeria, as we saw only too clearly at Wembley back before Christmas, so electric coming forward. They can defend solidly as well, and it's the Evertonian Daniel Amokachi. Things might not be going well for him in the Premier League, but he's on the score sheet in Saudi Arabia to wrap it up 3-0 to Nigeria, the final score. So welcome back to the second live match here this afternoon on Eurosport. We've just kicked off here in Riyadh, and it's Japan in the dark blue jerseys and the white shorts, playing from right to left in this first half against the Copa American champions for the last two campaigns, 91 and 93. Perhaps a World Cup in the United States they'd wish to put behind them, not least of course for the disgrace of Diego Maradona. And now under new coach Daniel Passarella, the dawning perhaps of a new era for one of the great sides of world football. In their traditional light blue and white stripes, twice winners of the World Cup, Argentina in this first period in Riyadh. They are the defending champions of the Intercontinental Cup, playing from left to right. And their side this afternoon, let's begin with Argentina. Bossio in goal. Ayala and the Italian-based player who plays his football in Lazio, Chamot, is the other fullback. The central defenders will be Ayala and we think Fabbri, who was on duty at Italia 90. And then in midfield, Escudero, Perez and Bassedas from World Club champions Vélez Sarsfield. And up front for them, they have Gabriel Batistuta and Rambert, the front two. And we'll just pause for a second here as Argentina begin to mount the first real attack of the match. So the first corner kick then to be taken on the far side by Ariel Ortega. For the hot favourites, Argentina, hoping very much not just to defend their title, but see off Japan here this afternoon with a resounding victory and a solid display that we hope will bring goals. Daniel Passarella will be expecting nothing more than 100% professionalism from his side against a Japanese team who perhaps are here to make up the numbers, perhaps for them to establish some footballing credentials on the world stage and hopefully not see themselves disgraced. It will be a major surprise if they get anything out of this one, or indeed if we're to see them contest the final against the winners from Group A. No shocks earlier on today as Saudi Arabia went down by 2-0 against Denmark. I'm sure you were with us for that one. This has the makings of an altogether more intriguing encounter between two differing styles of football. Argentina, one of the oldest established federations in the world, the game taken to South America by English emigrants at the end of the last century, then given a major fillip with the arrival of Italians at the turn of the century, many of them working in the docks around Argentina, around the major city of Buenos Aires. And of course it's largely through that Latin-Italian connection that Argentine football has developed to such an extent. Runners-up in the first ever World Cup in 1930, winners in 1978 on home territory, and again in 1986. This is Bassedas, the midfield dynamo for an Argentine side who will play with Ayala very much as a sweeper. And now coming forward with the first shot to test out Matsunaga, and he's equal to the task there from danger man Rambert. He scored in 2 of Argentina's last 3 internationals, a side undefeated since Daniel Passarella took up the coaching reins. That's a good save from Japan's premier keeper, now 32 years of age. And another important save from him. The Japanese number 1 concedes the second corner of the match. 0-0 if you've just joined us, and 90% of the play firmly in the Japanese half. The linesman was slow there in raising the flag, but our referee Rodrigo Badilla from Costa Rica ruling the man offside. Six sides playing in this, the second Intercontinental Cup for the King Fahd Trophy. And alongside that, there's a matter of $1.5 million going to the winning side. In fact, all the nations here, all 6 of them, picking up $500,000 simply for turning up. Turning up for Argentina. And his first touch of the ball in this game, Gustavo Bossio, the young goalkeeper from Estudiantes. No Goalkeeper. A number of famous names missing. Caniggia ruling himself out of the current setup. And you'll see why in just a moment when we look at the shorn locks now of leading marksman in Serie A this season, Gabriel Batistuta. We're used to seeing a long flowing mane, not just from Batistuta, but many of the Argentine players. Well, the big story behind that is since Passarella took over, something of a disciplinarian, himself a major force in Argentinian football, both as a player and now as a coach, first with River Plate and now the national side. Passarella wants to see no more long hair in the national side, he says. It's time to set examples. There will be regular drug testing, and any player who refuses to cut his hair will not figure in my selection. And that's why there's no Redondo, no Caniggia, and there is a reformed Gabriel Batistuta leading the line for his side this afternoon. Alongside him is the number 11 there, Rambert, just losing control, and it's back to Matsunaga. Clearly much of the Japanese approach work will look to feed the ball forward to Kazuyoshi Miura, who plays here in Europe, in Serie A with Genoa. perhaps the best known of the Japanese players to us. Going into this tournament, we'll look for signs that Japan has more to offer than just the one Italian-based player. Might have some defending to do here. Batistuta so close. And such a typical header from the man who always seems to find space where it matters around the opposition penalty area. And it's the Batistuta of old, a new look perhaps for the Fiorentina-based danger man. Cross from the far side, see how Batistuta ghosted away from his marker. And a player of his calibre must rank surely as currently one of the top 5 playing in the world. Might have expected to hit the target from there. Strong with both feet. A powerful foraging forward who likes to pick up the ball deep and run at defenders. And equally as good with his head. That so easily could and perhaps should have been the opening goal for his country in this game. Argentina's first appearance in Group B. Nigeria against Argentina in 2 days' time will surely be the key game here. One you certainly won't want to miss on EUROSPORT. So a new era then perhaps we're heralding in for Argentina. They revived their fortunes, rebuilt their country's reputation after Italia 90 when they were so sterile and negative, as we've all tried to forget, against Germany in that final in Rome. But reviving fortunes under Alfio Basile, they launched a 3-year unbeaten run that saw the side go 33 games before losing to Colombia in the World Cup qualification. Now Daniel Passarella hoping to do something similar, following along the heels of Basile. That's the first booking of the afternoon for Japanese defender Natsuka. Yoshihiro Natsuka, the number 2, with an early yellow card from our Costa Rican referee. Three points for a win under the auspices of FIFA controlling this competition, which means that the foreign-based players such as Batistuta have been obliged to attend if requested by their associations. Japanese with a throw on the far side. The compact figure of Horike, Takumi Horike, with the throw in. Japan coming out quickly and doing well to fill the void in midfield. And there's plenty of blue shirts forward here. They win a free kick from a position that might just give the Argentine defenders something to think about. Miura, the man, felled by Perez, the number 5. 5 in the wall. It's a fairly loose-knit wall at this stage. Kazu, don't be fooled by that. Kazu Miura, as we know him, drills it straight into a forest of Argentine legs. Escudero on the far side, forward to Bassedas. Oh, completely missing his kick was Chamot. And playing his side out of danger was Zanetti. But Japan quick to pick up the pieces and enjoying their best spell of the first half. They won't win too many points in the Argentine penalty area with the aerial ball. And now they've some defending to do. Through ball from Ortega. 3 defenders trying to close down Rambert. And now they can spread the ball wide to this near side, but not the sort of ball that Miura was looking for. Offside in any case, sparing the blushes of Ortega. Ortega from champions River Plate, of course, the former club of Daniel Passarella, where he was player and trainer. A national hero, Daniel Passarella, of course, the 1978 World Cup winner, forced to sit it out in Mexico, watched the finals, in fact, from his hospital bed, having picked up a stomach bug. A man who wore the national jersey on 71 occasions, and now to defend his country's honour in the championship they picked up for the first time a couple of years ago, beating the host nation then in the final by 3-1. Isogai, Yamaguchi and Fukuda, the furthest forward of the Japanese players, who are attempting to adopt a fairly rigid 4-4-2 formation. And at the back it's the captain, Hashiratani, who does well to just keep a close watch there on Pascual Rambert. He could well be a match winner again this afternoon for Argentina. In Passarella's first match in charge, they went to Santiago and beat Chile by 3-0. That man was on the score sheet early in that game. And indeed might have been in Riyadh again this afternoon. Batistuta, we remember, with an off-target header when the defenders just melted away from the big target man. But since that opening 7-minute burst, Japan beginning to compose themselves and enjoying their fair share of possession. The 6 invited sides, and Saudi Arabia, of course, as the hosts. Perhaps we should say the 5 invited teams who've made the journey here to the Middle East, of course, are the respective continental champions from Africa, Asia, South America. The European champions we've seen already this afternoon in action, and now we have the champions of South America against the Asian champions. Japan themselves so desperately unlucky not to book a passage to the United States 6 months ago, when the Asian challenge was spearheaded by South Korea. Here they are this afternoon, however, and Japan hoping very much to give a good account of themselves against one of the class sides currently in international football. Like them or loathe them, often controversial, but always capturing the headlines in one aspect or another. Argentina building a side for the future once again under Daniel Passarella, and coming forward with Escudero. That one is a little too long for Bassedas, who breaks forward from midfield, but it's a clearance this time from Matsunaga, who puts the ball deep into Argentine territory. Fukuda's clearance. Yamaguchi, there are 2 Yamaguchis in the Japanese squad. This is Motohiro Yamaguchi losing out on this occasion, might get another opportunity. Now it's with Zanetti. Still Zanetti. Batistuta, who's so often to be found lurking out on the touchline, where he pulls defenders out of position and then is quick to take up that more traditional position in the heart of the penalty box. Gets through a great amount of work, Batistuta. So many illustrious star strikers who think the rest of the side can do the spade work. Just put the ball in the danger area and leave it to us, we'll finish it off. Well, Batistuta's not like that. Good shot from 25 yards. Watched all the way by Matsunaga. Ortega hoping he might have done a little better. So Ariel Ortega and Gustavo Bassedas, the numbers 7 and 20 respectively. Bassedas playing almost as an inside left in this first 20 minutes or so, and Ortega on this near side, both with an appetite for goals by the look of the Argentine composition for this game. Experience, as you see there, from the Japanese defender Masami Ihara, today winning his 68th cap in the colours of Japan. Argentina once again just too enthusiastic and being caught offside. Linesman's flag on this occasion was up very quickly beneath us. Mr. Orelli from Jamaica. Miura crowded out, and Zanetti is going to keep a very close watch on him indeed. Everybody in the Argentine camp well aware of his reputation. Bassedas on the far side. Back to Chamot. But Japan win it back. So guys, forward pass not a good one. And the 20 minutes gone. It's Japan perhaps lucky still to hold on to a scoreline that reads 0-0. Some observers here in Riyadh were expecting Argentina to run up something like a cricket score in this match. Well, that's not normally Argentina's style. As so often in South American football, one goal will be enough. They'll be as delighted with that as if the score was 6-0. One thing they most certainly will not want to do is drop a point in this game, having seen Nigeria already open with a win. There's the coach nearest the camera, Daniel Passarella, now 41 years old. Well, that's something we've seen plenty of down the years. Ariel Fabbri just complaining to the referee, I think, about an elbow he got in the face. Argentinians always seem to feel that the world, and not just referees, is against them when it comes to football matches. A confidence factor that is often brittle. Brilliance they have aplenty in the Argentine First Division, but we all know how at international level their Achilles heel has so often out on the football field been discipline. Quite a tough act for Passarella to follow after Alfio Basile. Perhaps not the World Cup he would have wished for in America, not the way he might have chosen to bow out, as Rambert tries his luck on this near side for the first time in the match. And now they can get it away. It'll come straight back, however, as the Argentine midfield press up and looking to play the ball into the path of Batistuta with the left foot. And a volley. When you think the chance is gone, this man still manages to pull something out of the hat. And the ball just over the Japanese crossbar. There he is, tightly marked by 2 defenders, but still gets a shot in. Top scorer at Fiorentina for 3 seasons now since he left Boca Juniors. And what an interesting relationship there's going to be forming between him and his trainer now, Daniel Passarella. Batistuta allowed to drift away from Newell's Old Boys, the club he made his first division debut for at the end of the 80s. Then told at River Plate he wasn't good enough for the first team, having scored a handful of goals in 7 matches, and Passarella allowing him to drift away across town to arch rivals in Buenos Aires, Boca Juniors, where he went on immediately to make a major name for himself with a string of goals that saw Boca Juniors take the title, and Batistuta earned himself the tag as the Batman of football. Bat goals, they used to write in the Argentine press every time this man was on the mark. In Italy they found a rather different nickname for him, the Angel Gabriel. So, ex of River Plate, ex of Boca Juniors, now of Fiorentina, and for this afternoon proudly wearing once again the national colours of his country. May well be the difference between these two sides. He's a player of true international stature, and surely Argentina will be asking too many questions of Japan over the full 90 minutes. A question then in this first half of just when and where the opportunities will come for them to turn their domination into goals. They have a free kick. They were looking for the offside. Japan well drilled in defence under their coach, Mr. Shu Kamo, who was deeply disappointed with that 3-0 result against Nigeria, and he has given his side an ultimatum: improve today or else. That's the captain, the goalkeeper, sorry, the captain is the centre-half, Asheratani, the goalkeeper, who has already shown us his credentials in this first period. 32-year-old from the Yokohama Marinos. The regular choice now for the national side. His strength coming really from that experience gained over the years. If he has a weakness, they say it's sometimes indecision in coming out one-on-one. Well, if Argentina get their timing right, at the moment they've been defeated by the linesman's flag on a few occasions. But if they can thread the ball through for danger man Batistuta, and he gets a side of goal one-on-one with the keeper, that could be interesting indeed. Tsunami is shown the yellow card from the match official, so 2 Japanese in the book midway through this first period. Natsuka and Tsunami, the 2 defenders who will have to be circumspect for the remaining 75 minutes. In fact, Rambert, we were being shown Tsunami, but the name comes up against Pascual Rambert of Argentina. It seemed fairly innocuous to me. Ortega's cross, away by Hashiratani. Argentina looking to disjoint this Japanese defence. And Ortega and Bassedas have swapped positions. We've seen Rambert, really not fair to call him an out-and-out winger. Argentina rarely play in that kind of traditional way. Wingers are something of a luxury in Argentinian football. But Rambert in the number 11 shirt has already tried his luck down both flanks. Batistuta has the will to roam, as we know, a player who doesn't like to be shackled. And Passarella will certainly be giving him his head. And now from midfield, they're just trying to ring the changes and see where the chinks in this Japanese defence may be. Certainly there have been few at the back so far for an Argentine side that hasn't been tested. And Bossio has only handled the ball on one occasion, as I can recall. Tsunami. Batistuta coming off his man to offer himself, and the whistle's gone, so Argentina can deploy one of their set-piece tactics. Let's see what they've got up their sleeve from this position. Leonardo Perez on the ball, and it's Perez with the shot that comes tamely through the wall. Defenders doing their job, took some of the pace off it, and Matsunaga didn't have to move. So Japan will be encouraged to have survived this far without conceding a goal. Perhaps frustration of their fabled opponents is the strategy, and now they've won a free kick themselves as Miura goes down under the challenge. Here he is. And this time Bossio is called into actually making a diving save under no pressure, and making the most of that, the young keeper from Estudiantes rolls the ball out to the sweeper, Fabian Ayala. Argentina have played with a sweeper now, certainly since the World Cup in Italy in 1990. They tried Vasquez in that position under Basile. Ortega rather surprised there to be called back by the whistle. Inscrutable looks from the Japanese bench. Well, Ihara was rather fortunate in my view there to win a free kick, and it diffused what might have been a dangerous situation for the marauding Ortega. Had a flowing opening 15 minutes as Argentina threaded the ball around amongst themselves very much for that first quarter of an hour, but now Japan raising their ambition slightly, and the game becoming slightly more disjointed as we hear more from the referee's whistle. You always get the feeling here with an hour of the game to go that Argentina are playing well within themselves. And perhaps they're just waiting for the Japanese to make an error, rather than actually looking to go out and create goal-scoring opportunities themselves. Do they, I wonder, feel that from what they picked up in that opening game against Nigeria, the Japanese will sooner or later do something suicidal? We saw at the top of the show, defending which led to that opening goal from Shasha in the opening game in this Group B a couple of days ago. Something similar, and Argentinian forwards will not want asking twice to dispatch the ball into the back of the net. Might get a shooting opportunity here. Batistuta leaves it, and that's the opening goal. Just as we were saying, perhaps it was just a matter of time. It comes from Pascual Rambert, the number 11. And it's his third goal now in 4 international appearances since Passarella called him up to the national side. Ball running away from Batistuta, but in the end, Rambert reading the play far quicker than the line of 3 Japanese defenders, and dispatched clinically with the left foot from a dozen yards. No chance for Matsunaga. The veteran keeper is beaten, and just after the half-hour mark here, it's Argentina who lead by a goal to nil. 31 minutes gone then. Argentina have the goal they were looking for, and that surely will now bring the Japanese more out of their shell. So Rambert, who's seen off La Torre from Tenerife, and a number of other pretenders for the number 11 shirt, continues his climb into the ranks of established Argentine stars with another valuable goal for his country, vindicating his selection, and that will certainly calm the nerves, if there were any indeed, of coach Passarella. Another good goal for Rambert. He was the match winner in Argentina's last game, a friendly against Yugoslavia over Christmas, before this one, and now South American tails are most certainly up. This time it's Bassedas with a header that skims the crossbar, takes a touch on the keeper's gloves on the way through, and Argentina are back at Japanese throats with another corner kick. Well, whistles from the Saudi Arabians here in Riyadh, who've seen that replay like ourselves, and indeed have come to the same conclusion I have. That perhaps might have been a goal kick. Swung in by Ortega. Good fist from the keeper. Matsunaga is very quick to come off his line, and certainly punching is one of his strengths. The 32-year-old keeper from the Yokohama club. That's the third yellow card of the first half, where fouls with venom have been as scarce as a beer here in this magnificent stadium, but the referee sees something worthy of punishment there for that challenge. And I think it's Escudero, we'll wait for the caption, who this time is yellow carded. 67,000 the capacity for the King Fahd National Stadium, completed at the end of the 80s. You'll remember England were one of the early visitors here to play the national side. And Saudi Arabia are certainly no pushovers on home soil. They have a magnificent infrastructure set up in this country, which is looking now to dominate football in the Middle East. They began adopting very much the British style of coaching in the 1970s. That was abandoned, and along came Tele Santana and a host of Brazilians to influence the growth of Saudi football the Brazilian way. Well, now, as we saw in America, they've managed to forge a blend of the best of South American artistry with European defensive disciplines, and a style indeed that has been adopted by the great Brazilians themselves too. Saudi Arabia then hosting this tournament for the second time, the Intercontinental Cup, which draws together, as we've said, the holders of the respective continental championships, and with a small matter of $1.5 million for the winners and $1 million for the runners-up as well, then it's well worth the trip here into the Middle Eastern Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Football is a real passion here, I can tell you, having been out here a number of years ago to liaise with the Saudi Arabian government on a documentary when their junior under-16 side made national headlines by winning the JVC under-16 World Championships in Scotland in 1989. Not too many of that side have gone on to the national side, the senior side, but I can tell you that football here in Saudi Arabia is really growing. And Japan too, of course, are looking to do something similar with the establishing of their J-League, which has just finished, with the championship going to the Verdi Kawasaki side. Their oldest player, Rui Ramos, Brazilian by birth, nationalized Japanese player, 37 years old. We saw him substituted in the defeat against Nigeria, and he's replaced for this afternoon's game. So their most experienced player missing, Rui Ramos, who is reputed to be the third highest earning footballer currently playing, and that shows you the kind of money that has been invested to make the J-League credible, and as we know, Japan bidding to stage the World Cup in the year 2002. And in fact, we've heard just before Christmas that the Argentine Association themselves have put in a bid for the World Cup in the year 2006. Such is the advanced forward planning that is now needed for the major championships in world soccer. Well, the Saudis have done a magnificent job once again in bringing together the 5 visiting nations who will play over the coming week for that King Fahd trophy, and all the money that I'm sure will be much appreciated by the winning nation. Argentina leading here by a goal to nil then as we come towards half-time. An untested first period it's been for keeper Bossio, and the defenders in front of him doing an excellent job of blunting the best the Japanese can come up with. And you have to say there's simply too much class about the Argentinians, both in midfield and also in coming forward, with danger men of real potency in Gabriel Batistuta, a man who needs no introduction to this or any other footballing audience, and perhaps a new star in the making in the South American firmament, the goal scorer in this first half after 31 minutes, the number 11, Pascual Rambert from Independiente. The Japanese just don't seem to have any real conviction in their own play in the final third of the pitch, and they're all too frequently giving the ball away whenever they get into the Argentine half. Well, Miura is now trying his luck on the far side. He'll certainly do well to get any change out of an experienced defender like Ariel Fabbri, World Cup runner-up at Italia 90 from the famous Boca Juniors club in Buenos Aires. Forward from Bossio, 5 minutes to half-time. The Japanese are never going to win a physical battle in a match of this caliber, but as we've seen over successive World Cups with the South Koreans, there's a blossoming football potential in Asia, and perhaps we'd expect to see a little more artistry on the ball, a little more speed from the Japanese than they've shown us so far. Now they're backpedaling once again. Here's the goal scorer, Rambert. Just plays the ball behind Bassedas, playing in that advanced midfield role and looking to feed off the front two. Kuda giving the ball away, throw in taken quickly by Zanetti. Here's Ortega, gets it back to Zanetti, all the way back to Escudero. Once again it's sloppy defending from the back line, and Matsunaga wants to see his men forward so he can pump it long. So far then, outgunned and outclassed both in the air and on the ground. Hard to really formulate much of an opinion of this new look Argentine defence, because they simply haven't been tested in this first period, as that one goes back to the Japanese keeper. And although one might expect the knowledgeable watching locals to support the underdog here in Riyadh this afternoon, it's a cloudy and relatively cool afternoon by Arabian standards. Argentina won a lot of friends and a great deal of respect with their win here 2 years ago. And there's one thing that the Saudis do appreciate, it's quality football, and they know who the stars of the world scene are. It's not to say they're in awe of Argentina, but they do recognize this is a nation with a tremendous pedigree, a great history. The Copa America is the oldest international championship currently being staged in the world, and Argentina have won that competition on more occasions than any other South American side. The Saudis very knowledgeable, they love their football. Football is taken in here by television from all over the world. Live Brazilian football, a regular feature on Saudi state television, as is our own national game in Great Britain. And it looks as if Perez is going to be stretchered off for some attention. Doesn't look to be in any great discomfort, but as we've seen since the World Cup now, it's the format that FIFA are so keen to follow. Quickly on with the stretchers, off with the injured player, and let's get on with the game of football. And few, I'm sure, will argue with that procedure. So Perez is off. It wouldn't surprise me too much if he's on again fairly quickly. Argentina resisting the moment to put on a substitute. They're leading by a goal to nil. They're holding all the cards in this first period, and the game going very much as we expected. The Japanese simply don't look as if they believe in their own game. That's a rather foolish challenge, and a clumsy one too from Isogai. And he's lucky not to see a yellow card with the way the Costa Rican referee has been brandishing yellow so far in this first period. We haven't seen a single cynical challenge, but still there have been 3 yellow cards. What matters is there's been a single goal, and it's gone to the side here in the blue and white stripes. Can they add a second before the break? Good testing free kick, Batistuta wins it. And who was the last man closing in on goal? Once again, Rambert, but this time Matsunaga was there first. Well, the Argentinian back four are simply brushing aside every Japanese surge. And here they come again, looking for a second. Good save by the keeper to deny Escudero. He too was on the mark in Passarella's first match in that 3-0 friendly win at Chile. And he very nearly adds another one then, as Matsunaga gets down quickly to his right-hand side to deny the Argentinians a second goal right on the break. That really would have been a killer. At 1-0, whatever the quality of the opposition or the odds against you, be it non-league against the Premier Division side in the FA Cup, or no hopers in international competition, at 1-0 in any class of football, you always have a chance. Argentina building from the back, as expected, very much the style that's been theirs now under successive managers, and still finding their men and contriving to add a second. And what a neat goal that was too, all the way from the back there. 6-7 passes strung together. It's hard to remember a challenge along the way before the ball is played in once again from the left hand side. That's where the danger's coming. And the number 7, Ortega, has threatened to score already in this game, and that's a wonderful finish from the number 7. Clever ball played in as the defenders backed off. Well, they're so intimidated by Batistuta, they're taking eyes off the players coming forward from midfield. It was created by Chamot, the Lazio man. And the Japanese defenders never ever got in a meaningful challenge, as that pass came in fact, a move that began near their own corner flag. Across the back line, started by Fabbri, the sweeper. It's the final action of a first half that sees Argentina going in, leading by 2-0. Rambert began it all on 31 minutes, and the second there on the stroke of half-time from the number 7, Ortega. Argentina then surely in the box seat, looking to go one better than Nigeria. Here, as we take a short break, they lead Japan in this Group B game by 2-0. Stadium here in Riyadh, one of the most impressive stadia in the whole world, I have to say. Anybody who's been lucky enough to come here and see it simply would have their breath taken away by this magnificent stadium, which from afar has the appearance of a collection of Bedouin tents. They have deliberately constructed the stadium roof to represent that aspect of Arabian life. Well, inside it's not a packed house by any means, but the knowledgeable Saudi fans, I'm sure, have certainly been impressed with what they've seen, as we have too thus far, by an Argentine side who lead quite comfortably, it has to be said, 2-0. They've never been extended by the Asian champions. Japan have been outmaneuvered, outclassed and outrun by a good Argentine side, just as Alfio Basile did after the disgrace really of Italia 90, if you can call being runners-up disgraceful. He dismantled that side and started afresh. Well, his successor Daniel Passarella is doing the same after Argentina failed to come up to their own expectations really in the United States. And despite the absence of true international stars in Caniggia, Simeone, Balboa of course, whose goals were instrumental in getting Argentina to the final stages of the World Cup. Gabriel Batistuta is here. He perhaps surprisingly hasn't scored in that first period, but goals on 31 from Rambert and a follow-up right on the interval. A good goal too from Ortega as Argentina strung together a series of passes, leaves them in the driving seat here, leading by 2-0. So we're all set to get underway for this second period, and as we said to you at the beginning, clearly the key game here is going to come in a couple of days when Argentina take on Nigeria in this group. And the Nigerians, for one, will be looking for revenge. 2 Caniggia goals doing for them at the World Championships. Now can they come back and perhaps take this group to go into the final itself against the winners from Group A? All will be revealed in the coming days if you stick with us right here on EUROSPORT, your number 1 channel across Europe for international football. And a truly international aspect to this game too. Japan, one of the emerging nations against one of the oldest established forces, not just in South American but indeed in world football. Winners of 2 world championships. Argentina, winners of the last 2 Copa Americas. Daniel Passarella looking to get his stewardship underway with another major international success here in his 4th game in charge. He's won all 3 so far. Argentina in that time haven't conceded a goal. The match winner last time out over Christmas at home in Buenos Aires against Yugoslavia. On the score sheet again this afternoon. There's a name to watch for the future. Pascual Rambert from Independiente. For me, he's been the best player on view in the first period, when perhaps all eyes were drawn to Gabriel Batistuta, the near legendary number 9. Incredible to think he's still only in his mid-20s, and with all eyes drawn to the Fiorentina man, missing with that early header that went just wide. It was left to the number 11 Rambert. Here he is on the ball once again right at the start of the second half, getting in a shot that is in fact it's gone in off the head of Batistuta this time. The keeper, I thought he'd pushed it round the post, but despite the appeals from the Japanese defenders, the linesman's flag stays down and the referee is calling away the protests. If the Japanese continue to argue the case, then they are going to be in trouble. They're in enough trouble as it is, because within a minute of the restart, Rambert adds to his reputation by going first inside and then outside the defender. And although the goalkeeper got both hands to the shot, it's a simple follow-up header for Gabriel Batistuta from a yard's range to clinch the third goal for his side. And Argentina now racing away with it, leading by 3-0. Rambert's testing shot, good save by Matsunaga initially, but obligingly for Gabriel Batistuta, the ball going straight up in the air off the arm of the Japanese keeper, and it's number 3. This time the linesman has his flag up. The Japanese seem to think it should have come earlier, as that shot came in from the Argentine number 11, and that one was pretty close too. While their complaints were centred against the eventual goal scorer Batistuta, his predatory instincts had him in the right place at the right time, closing in on goal, looking for any kind of ricochet or knockdown. It came obligingly off the keeper's arm, and that was one my grandmother could have put over the line. 3-0 Argentina, and Batistuta this time is indeed on the score sheet. And an intriguing moment that in Argentine football history, as he scores his first goal for the national side under trainer Passarella, the man who released him from River Plate 5 years ago, saying he would not make the grade, and Passarella didn't like his attitude. I wonder if he ever lived to regret that statement, as Batistuta moved across town to Boca Juniors and then proceeded to win the club championship for Boca against old rivals River Plate, who were runners-up that season. Well, the goal scorer Batistuta, there he is, has clearly sent out a message of commitment to the new manager, making that trip to the hairdressers, and quite happy to have the lock shorn. The comments coming from the rebels, if we can call them that, with the long hair, some of them unprintable. Canigia saying, my form has never been a reflection of the length of my hair. This is a nonsense. I will not comply. The quote from, we just pause for a second here as Ortega looks to add his second of the game, and Matsunaga is the busiest Japanese player on the pitch at the moment. His side are down by 3-0. It's a question of respectability for the Asian champions, really being put to the sword now by a fine footballing side from South America, who are proving that anything that Nigeria could do, they too can go one better. Maradona was quite outspoken back in Buenos Aires when Passarella ran rule over the length of hair being sported by many of the national side favourites. He said it was an absolute nonsense. Redondo too at Real Madrid is another one who says long hair has nothing to do with the way I play football, and I resent being treated as a child. But Passarella has this reputation for standing no nonsense, and it may well herald a new look, not just in playing terms from Argentina, perhaps a new approach too. He is not one who will want to support or condone sportsmanship, bad sportsmanship, showmanship, all the things we've seen from Argentina over the years. Remember, they came to Wembley in 1991, I think it was, 92, and picked up a very, very credible 2-2 draw on an afternoon when they said inspiration was derived from their whistling of the national anthem pre-kickoff. So I wonder sometimes if English fans at Wembley realise perhaps just what effect they have on the opposition. Argentina coming back from 2 down that afternoon to draw with England by 2-2. Cross from the number 14, Isogai. He came on as a substitute in the game against Nigeria. So Isogai starting the match today, but it has made no difference to the performance of his side. A man from the Osaka club. Japan in a defensive position once again, looking to protect the keeper, Matsunaga. He was unlucky with that third goal and hasn't disgraced his side today. Certainly the pick of the bunch thus far has been the second. This is shaping up to look like a fourth. It is. And now Argentina are really flying. Chamot this time catching fire. The left fullback that's so long been a problem position to fill in the national side. Good strong run, cuts in field. And they're giving him far too much time and space there to fire a shot with the right foot. It's inside the near post. There's certainly no question this time of offside to come to the aid of Japan. And very quickly at the start of this second half, they've conceded 2 goals. And now looking desperately like this is going to be a drubbing for the Japanese. 4-0 they trail Argentina. No question now of the outcome. Goals, if they are to play a critical part, should Argentina and Nigeria draw their last game, then it's Argentina who will qualify for the final. Kitazawa, who's come on for this second half. That's the number 8 there, winning a free kick for Japan. That's about all they are winning so far in this game. It's a very composed defensive back line for Argentina, now happy to play the ball amongst themselves, something that Japan have been incapable of doing. 3 or 4 passes in midfield. At times it's looked fairly pretty and precise. It's got them precisely nowhere. The difference being when Argentina want to play the telling ball, they're capable of doing it, and what's more, they have the men up front to finish the job and wield the knife. 4 times they've plunged it into the heart of Japan in this game, and you feel there's plenty of time left and much more in the Argentine locker for more goals to come. We did promise you goals at the start of the action here from Riyadh today, and glad to say on EUROSPORT once again we've delivered the goods. So Passarella now can begin to protect 1 or 2 key players. Escudero had a quiet game, the number 8. Off he goes, and on comes Adrian Lopez. And a nice time to come on to for the substitute, with his side cruising by 4 goals to 0. Gustavo Adrian Lopez is another player from the Independiente side. Not quite the force in Argentina they used to be, as the championship over the past 3 seasons has been divided between River Plate, Boca and Newell's Old Boys. And that is Sarsfield, of course, who've come out of nowhere in 1994 to stake their claim, at least, to be considered one of the top 6 in Argentina. And as we know, in December, pulling off the shock of defeating AC Milan in Japan for the Toyota Cup, the World Club Championship. So Argentina football either side of Christmas, currently on a high. Can Japan find something back here from the free kick? They can, and that's warmly applauded by the sporting Saudi fans here. And I'm sure few will begrudge them at least that consolation goal. It comes from their star player, Miura. Passarella will be less than happy with the hole that suddenly opens up there, with defenders jumping at the free kick all along the ground. How often do you see that happen in football? Finding the bottom corner, the left foot shot there that goes home. And now 3 goals at the start of the second half as Miura pulls one back for Japan. I'm sure it'll be nothing more than a consolation, but it's their first goal in this year's Intercontinental Cup here in Saudi Arabia, and at least it's one that the number 11 Miura, I'm sure, will remember for a long time to come. Kazuyoshi Miura from Genoa with a goal here in the second half, but I'm afraid it's going to be too late because Argentina have already added 2 more since the break from Batistuta and the fullback Chamot, adding to first half efforts from Rambert and Ortega. What, I wonder, will be the South American reaction to that? Will they be stung into further action, or will the goal revive Japanese spirits? Well, suddenly there's a new spring in their step and a more tenacious look to their midfield as the substitute Kitazawa chased that last ball before pumped forward for Ortega to chase. He's gone down, and that'll be a free kick. Ortega takes a tumble. Easy one for the referee Badile to call. Free kick played forward into the Japanese penalty area. 6 defenders around just 3 blue and white striped players for Argentina. Safety first, and Chamot at the back to be pumped forward by Fabbri. I don't think Fabbri's put a foot wrong. Not that he's been tested. And that's the substitute in this second period, the number 8. He's certainly given the Japanese a little more pep, a little more purpose in midfield. Maybe too much for the substitute to turn the tide all on his own. And it's Yamaguchi who has gone off, incidentally. Tsunami forward. There was an inevitability almost about the Japanese scorer today. Miura, who turned out in Milan over Christmas for the All-Stars in that charity fixture. He, of course, is the player we know most about from the Japanese scene, but I'm sure with the increasing interest shown in the J-League in '95, there'll be more Japanese names that we'll become familiar with. The first goal in these championships, not just for him, but also for his country. And a second substitute being made now by Shukamo. Yanagimoto, that's it, Yanagimoto, Hirashige Yanagimoto, the number 18. From the Hiroshima club. So 2 substitutes now used by Japan in this second period. Argentina still with the starting formation. I'm sure that they might look to rest a couple of players. In fact, Lopez, of course, came on, so they have made the one change. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't rest a couple more as we get into the final third of a game that sees Argentina doing everything expected of them and leading by 4-1. Here they come again. Batistuta scored the third, and this time the cross well cut out by the diving Matsunaga. Batistuta, who's likely to pop up and hurt you from wide on the left, wide on the right, or the direct route to goal straight down the middle. And I must say, for such a consistent goal scorer, Batistuta, not a selfish player by any means, and he creates many, many good opportunities for those colleagues around him too. Well, Argentina have decided that enough is enough. The Japanese have been taking a few liberties by daring to come back into the game and score a goal themselves. Late evening now in Riyadh. These games being played in early and late evening, even in darkish January down here in the Arabian Peninsula. The temperature quite capable of getting up into the upper 70s and 80s. Free kick from Argentina. And if they were looking for the top corner, then by their standards that was a poor free kick from the number 5, Leonardo Perez. Goal kick, Japan. On by Batistuta. Already seems to have struck up a fine understanding with the number 11, Rambert. Tsunami linking up play well there down the left flank. There he is, the number 3. Easily dealt with once again. Argentina, not a tall team by European standards, but certainly tall enough today to overshadow the Japanese in every sense of the word. What about the playing surface here in Riyadh? Of course, with the tremendous heat one gets in Saudi Arabia, this is a specially prepared surface. A great deal of soil and scientific engineering has gone into making this King Fahd Stadium one of the best playing surfaces in the world. There's a specific route that is used to retain what moisture does fall, apart from that which is put on, of course, by the groundsman's hose. But it really is an excellent playing surface, and all over this kingdom they have football stadiums that are rarely filled, but they're there. They have something like 20 self-contained sports cities for their athletes, and they've got 4 or 5, well, really Class 1 football grounds, you have to say. The Saudis themselves harbouring ambitions to persuade FIFA that one day the World Cup might well come to this part of the world. And the Intercontinental Cup is all part of that process of assimilation and persuasion. Great organisational skills being shown once again by the host nation. Out on the pitch here this evening in Riyadh, it's those traditional South American skills of strength in defence, neat, controlled, precise passing movements through the midfield, and when the opportunities arise, striking like a cobra in front of the opposition's goal. Argentina have done that today on 4 occasions, and certainly 2 of the goals would not have disgraced more superior opponents, perhaps opponents with greater finesse than the Japanese have shown. They've certainly conceded a couple of bad goals in my book, lacking the the expertise to close down quickly and to really make challenges where it mattered. But we'll remember that fine infield run of the fullback Chamot for the fourth, and also right on half-time the second from Ortega at the end of a fluid passing movement that saw the ball move the length of the pitch. And as we suspected, Argentina are going to make another substitution. Ortega is going off. And on comes the number 17, Gallardo. Daniel Gallardo. Ortega, who's certainly put plenty of physical effort into this game. He was injured earlier on, we saw that. So Ortega earns a rest. Onto the bench he goes, and on comes the youngster, another young player in Passarella's formation, Daniel Gallardo. A large proportion of the travelling 20 players who came down here from the River Plate side, not surprisingly perhaps, Passarella's old club, and familiar with most of those players, more so than perhaps the rest of the Argentine First Division. And no surprise when I tell you that Gallardo comes indeed from River Plate. Rambert keeps the ball in play. Dangerous position once again for the Japanese, and they win an aerial challenge in their own box. That was good defending from the captain, Ali Shatani, for once really attacking the ball. We've certainly seen today that the side here in the dark blue have plenty to learn at this level, but with their own J-League they're not making the mistakes of the North American Soccer League, who relied solely on imported players to attract the crowds and put down the roots of soccer in that country back in the 70s. We all know what happened to the NASL. It failed, and it failed in a big way. But in Japan, although they have of course brought in a number of big name imported stars now at the end of their careers, they've brought through plenty of homegrown talent as well. It has to be that way. And we've already seen from attendances in the J-League all the early signs that with corporate backing, that is a league that looks as if it is certainly going to establish itself, and that can only be good for the growth of the national side in years to come. Well, Gustavo Bossio, his big problem in this game has been keeping concentration. That's one of the substitutes in this second half, both sides now having made two apiece. Yanagimoto with a cross that never tested out. The Estudiantes man looks to clear the ball long, breaking like greyhounds from the trap really. It was 2 against 1 there for a second, but they were just ahead of the starter's gun and flagged for offside. Otherwise that could have been more embarrassment for Japan. It's certainly given the watching Nigerians plenty to go home and think over. That's going to be a fascinating duel, the last game in Group B, when those two sides clash for what now will be a place in the final of the second Intercontinental Cup. You're watching, remember, here this afternoon on Eurosport, the defending champions Argentina, and certainly we have to say they've turned in a champion's performance here. Isogai is limping, Hiromitsu Isogai looking to the bench, no substitution. On we go, away by Fabbri, has missed nothing, has been a real rock with the sweeper and captain Ayala behind him. There's been no way down the middle for Japan, just the one reply from the foot of Miura from a free kick where I thought the Argentine defending was frankly poor. Easily cut out by Perez. Here's Chamot. In fact, it's all the way back there, Bassedas. Some loose marking for once by Zanetti, giving the Japanese more freedom than they've had for much of this game, but Fukuda can do nothing with it but win a throw-in for his country. Beginning to be played at something of a walking pace now. Well, I said that this was a cool evening by Saudi Arabian standards. That's not to say it's cold by any means. Still fairly close out there. Not in terms of goals scored on the pitch, however. Ihara again. Yamaguchi available. And yet again it breaks down in midfield all too easily. Argentina win back possession. Two players rather slow to get up there. Back from Bassedas. Chamot fooled there by the Japanese boot, and it goes out for a Japanese throw, and just inside their own half. That's a good throw. And here's the substitute, Kitazawa. Well, how did he get away from his marker there? No problems about long hair for the Japanese coach, Mr. Shu Kamo. 25 caps for the midfield man, Kitazawa. Off goes Batistuta on one of those driving, forging runs from him. The crowd wanted to see a shot. Had two players to his right. Perhaps a dummy, a shimmy, and then carrying on with the left foot was the option there. Batistuta spurned it, and the opportunity was missed. Yamaguchi on the far side. Tsunami again. Well, if they're going to hoist it into the box, they're surely just feeding this Argentine defence. That was a more calculated ball, a cleverer one than we've seen so far for much of the Japanese play. That is simply played into the opponent's hands. They've won a free kick. Not sure what Bassedas was guilty of there. And the Japanese, who just had a brief flurry after they rocked in the opening 5 minutes, nearly conceded an early goal or two. I said Batistuta was very close with an early header. They had a 10-minute spell where perhaps the Argentinians just toyed with their opponents, allowed them to come forward, find out what they were made of. The answer was not too much. And then the goals started to go in. Now a question of whether Argentina really have the appetite for going on and finding more, or will they keep their powder dry for the Nigerians? It'll certainly give them an altogether more robust challenge than they've had today. If anything, the Nigerians physically, well, certainly stronger than the Japanese, no doubt about that. Japan look to be in danger of conceding a fifth here. Batistuta's exquisite chip only just clears the angle. He drifts into positions that really are the hallmark of all great strikers. He's got yards there on his defender, and the keeper Matsunaga doing well to race from goal. But Batistuta had just so much time to line up a shot, it was embarrassing, and he'll be disappointed not to hit the target. It was almost like a move from the training ground there. The Japanese defenders completely adrift. But Nigeria, not just one of the strongest teams here in this competition, perhaps physically, there are a few stronger currently playing in world football. They gave England plenty to think about at Wembley on a cold night in November, going down to David Platt's header, but many on the night thought they were worthy of at least a draw. And if the Argentines want to mix it in the last game in this group, then certainly Nigeria will not shrink from the challenge. They'll be looking not just for the win, the 3 points that puts them into the final. For them, more importantly, and for all African football, they'll be seeking revenge for that 2-1 defeat in the USA. That's really a game to relish coming up for you in a couple of days' time. From Group A, will it be Denmark flying the European flag, the 1992 European champions, the surprise package, securing that rather uninspiring 2-0 win earlier today against Saudi Arabia in the first game, the double header today from Riyadh for you. Brown Laudrup was the difference between the two sides. Not fair to say that Batistuta has been the difference here. It's been a good team performance from Passarella's men. And Passarella knows the danger of over-reliance on the big man there, Gabriel Batistuta, who, wherever he's gone since his early days in Argentina, just cannot stop scoring goals. 19 it was for Boca, the year they won the title. Blocked. The shot was from Miura, and the substitute Kitashawa claims the corner kick. And that's the first time in the game we've seen the right fullback for Japan, Natsuka, this far forward. Left for Miura to chip the ball into the near post, and that was clever, intelligent play from the Japanese. Argentina were out quickly, but no offside. Last man, Ayala, was a little slow in coming out. And for the first time, perhaps in the second half, the Japanese are forward in some numbers. Fabbri doing so well to jockey Tsunami, not committing himself, and in the end it's a goal kick to Argentina. A side now that have conceded their first goal for Daniel Passarella. I think he might have something to say about that in the dressing room afterwards, but surely the words won't be too harsh with 10 minutes to go for a side that lead here 4-1 and looking as if it's going to be 4 wins out of 4 under the new regime. Well, Passarella, I'm sure, would love to emulate Coco Basile's 33-match winning start to his run as Argentine trainer. From 1990 to 1993, Argentina really did have a purple patch, and that was done without Maradona, and for much of that time was done without Claudio Caniggia as well. There'll be no more Maradona, I'm afraid, in world football, but Caniggia, I wonder just how hungry he is still to play at this level. Will those locks be shorn, or will he be banished to the wilderness under Passarella's new ruling? On comes the stretcher, this time for the Japanese captain. They won't want to lose him, albeit with 9 minutes to go and the game lost. Hashiratani will not want to bow out of this year's competition on the back of a stretcher, I'm sure. No disgrace from the performance turned in by the captain. There he is, from the reigning J-League champions, Verdy Kawasaki. Now 30 years old, and looks as if he wants to play out the final 8 minutes or so before Japan prepare for the flight home. Well, they've come here as Asian champions. They were within 17 seconds of qualifying for the USA 94. This has not been one of their better tournaments. Playing as they are out of season, the Japanese league finishing before Christmas. Perhaps that defeat against Nigeria in the first game really took it out of them, sapped confidence, and the prospect of playing Argentina aside with such a tremendous record in world football after the 3-0 loss to Nigeria was a prospect they found a little hard to bear. Passarella, who's a fairly phlegmatic character on the bench, almost unusual by Argentine standards, but now opening up another great chapter in what has been a tremendous career for the 41-year-old man born in Buenos Aires back in 1953. 15 seasons playing top soccer in Argentina, where he won 7 titles with River Plate, and then going on to greater glories in Italy with Fiorentina and Inter Milan. 71 international caps, played in 2 World Cups, remember, and the captain of Argentina when they lifted the trophy in Buenos Aires in 1978. Has an intense love for the national side, a true patriot, remembered from his playing days for never exchanging his shirt with an opponent after an international match. So he left River Plate in good hands, and now he's taken up the challenge of coaching Argentina towards, well, for them it'll be first of all a defence of the Copa America title they've won for the past 2 occasions, in 1991 and in 1993. They're defending champions here of the King Fahd Cup, but for Daniel Passarella there has to be really only one goal, and that will be to bring back the World Cup in 1998 from France. I must say, under Basile, the Argentina I saw between Italy and the USA was a side I fancied to do very well in America. Perhaps they peaked a year too soon. Oh, they're giving the ball away to surely the wrong man in the side. A blast from the referee means a penalty kick for Argentina, and the Japanese just laying the ball into the path of danger man Batistuta. I'm sure he'll be the man to take the penalty kick. Here comes the challenge from behind, no doubt about that decision. An easy one for referee Badile. And a penalty conceded here in the final 5 minutes by fullback Tsunami. That really was naive play from Japan. It just about sums up their performance here this evening in Riyadh. And indeed, as we suspected, it's Gabriel Batistuta. Takes these penalty kicks with the right foot, doesn't normally place them, goes for power, and I can tell you that he very rarely misses. I wonder if that's something that Matsunaga's aware of. There it is, into the top corner. Another goal, another bat goal, as they say in Argentina, for the Angel Gabriel. It's his second of the game, a header, and one from the penalty spot. And that just about puts the icing on the cake for the Gauchos, who now lead by 5 goals to 1. And that's another one of Batistuta's trademarks as well. Very often puts his penalty kicks into the top corners. Well, some purists say that you keep them on the ground, aim for the back stanchion. Batistuta likes to power them into the roof of the net. On that occasion, leaning back and guiding the ball in with the right instep. And Matsunaga getting nowhere near it. 2 goals in this championship, 2 goals today. Two more goals for Argentina. and 2 goals for his new coach. Passarella, remember the man who released him from River Plate. Through he goes again, and once again they have to stop him by whatever means necessary. 2 defenders for Batistuta, who's proving a real handful, and this time just outside the box. I thought for a second Batistuta was going to ride the challenge. The second one just not enough for him to keep his feet. Down he went, and Japan now looking to save face and save themselves from conceding goal number 6. They've come in clusters, one either side of half-time, the 44th minute, right after the restart again, and goals 2 and 3 were followed up fairly quickly by a 4th from Chamot. Well, it's not to be this time. 2 and 3 minutes beyond the Argentinians, and that was a poor free kick, the second from Perez. Incidentally, in this game, it's rather surprising from him. Not that it will matter, of course. Japan have now conceded 8 goals in 2 games in Group B. And this has been a visit to Saudi Arabia that they will want to forget in a hurry. However, they will be consoled by the fact there will be $500,000 going into the Japanese Association's coffers for them to help develop the game back home. And I suppose on those terms you have to say the trip here to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been worthwhile. Fruitful it hasn't in terms of results. They have managed to score 1 goal through Miura. He is their one player of international repute and renown, plying his trade, as we know, in Serie A with Genoa. But Argentina, a young side, new names for us, retaining their ace goal scorer and marksman Batistuta, who's led the line once again with aplomb and has been on the mark with 2 more valuable goals for his side. But a lot of young players here looking to establish a reputation, and will they, I wonder, be a force to be reckoned with in 1998. It's a great start for Passarella if he can retain the Intercontinental Cup. It will of course mean that early in his career as the national coach he starts off within year 1 with a trophy to his name. Next objective then will be the Copa America. After that it will be World Cup qualification. So we're into the final couple of minutes, a last flurry from the Asian champions, and Bossio has had nothing to do apart from just retrieve from the back of the net that one free kick that deceived him and the wall in front of him, as defenders rather jumping foolishly, giving the opportunity for Miura to get a sight of goal. All credit to the Japanese man. The shot on target was a good and fast low one, surprising the keeper. But at that stage in the game it was already a lost cause with Japan 4 down. 4-1 then midway through the second period became 5 with Batistuta's penalty. Goals in the first half, to remind you, from Rambert. He's faded somewhat from the scene, but already looking as if he and Batistuta will, in tandem between them, prove a headache for plenty more nations, perhaps stronger than the one we've seen here this afternoon on Eurosport in the dark blue. It's Japan, I'm afraid, who've been humbled, playing way below expectation and par. Everything that we expected from Argentina. Remember, a side who've twice won the World Cup, runners-up 4.5 years ago in Italy. They've simply had far too many shots in the locker for their opponents. Japan have gone down here in this Group B game in Riyadh tonight by 5 goals to 1. Six goals in this one, 2 earlier on this afternoon as Denmark swept aside the host nation Saudi Arabia. It's been an evening, an afternoon of goals for you back in Europe on Eurosport. We've had an afternoon to remember here in Riyadh as the Intercontinental Cup really warms up now, with just one more game to come in both groups. You'll see both of those and the final here on Eurosport. That's the check, $3,000 that has gone to the player of the afternoon. That's the scoreline here, however, still to be resolved. Who will be taking home the check for £1.5 million? We know who've taken home the kudos and the 3 points today in the King Fahd Stadium. From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it's goodbye. Argentina here triumphant by 5 goals to 1.